we live in a world that is driven by productivity.
Mhm.
And if you are not doing or producing, then there's this narrative that you're less than, you're not worthy. And I think what going through traumatic experiences will teach folks is that your worthiness has nothing to do with what you can produce. And if you are willing to allow your body to do what it wants to do, what it needs to do to be able to recover from the traumatic experience, you will come back stronger.
Welcome today, everyone, to today's podcast clip, and we are featuring Miss Aly Bird. She's a change maker that we are here to highlight today so she can tell the world how she helps people turn their pain into purpose. Introducing Aly. Hi, Aly. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm so excited as well. Your work inspires me so much. And it's important that I let the world know very, very, very great people like you who are making a big difference in the world. And sometimes some of you people can be behind the spotlight, and it's time to pull you to the forefront. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So, again, my name is Aly, and I am a coach, a therapist, an author, and based on a lot of my own lived experience with grief and trauma, today I help people cope with death, loss, and grief and find meaning in their lives and figure out a way to live around the legacy of their loss, but in a way that feels still really good to them and gives them a future that they can be happy to live in.
Nice, nice. So before we kind of dive in, could you share a little bit about what inspired you to get into this type of work? Was there something that happened in your life that pushed you or inspired you or motivated you to get into this line of business?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was 30, I was chugging away at building a niche for myself as a life coach, working with millennials through significant life transitions. I think a lot of us, finished college or university, worked for a few years, and then thought, oh no, like, is this it? So I was really trying to get my foot in the door through that, helping them figure out, like, this the right career path for me? Is this the right person for me? If they are in a relationship, is this the right city for me? Maybe I want to move. And right when I was, starting to catch my stride uh, on those themes and in that work, the love of my life, the person that I chose to spend the rest of my life with, died completely unexpectedly and instantly in a hiking accident. And I was thrown into the world of grief without any understanding of what it was like to live with a life changing loss, and sensations in my body that were foreign and involuntary.
Mhm.
And being the ambitious person I am, I thought, I am going to crush this. I'm going to be completely fine again in a year. It's all going to be okay. And very, very quickly, I realized that I didn't know anything about grief. I thought it was a feeling, and if you just felt it enough, that it would go away. But grief is really something that you learn to live with and live around, and it is dynamic and ever changing. And we really don't do a very good job, at least in like Western culture, of giving people the space to allow grief to move through us and move with us and learn to live with it. We kind of expect people to go behind a closed door and, figure it out on their own and then come back when you're okay.
Mhm.
And so the work I do now is very much based in grief literacy, letting people know that actually we learn to live with grief. It doesn't go away. And that loving our people who are grieving actually gives them better chances at living a meaningful life later. And
Mhm.
then also helping people who have survived traumatic losses or really traumatic life changes, helping them cope and find meaning again, and some sense of resilience and purpose,
Yeah.
that they can have, a future that feels really good to them.
Mm.
And the way that I've done that is really taken my life experience and applied it to this line of work, and doing this work is what makes me feel empowered and gets me excited about the future.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So you shared something deeply that I really resonated with, losing a partner just unexpectedly. Are you wanting to share a little bit about that and what happened, how it hit you, and how you were able to get the grief literacy you needed to overcome that?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. So, my partner, Will, and I at the time were living on the west coast of Canada. We had this really active, adventurous, like beautiful lifestyle that suited us perfectly. We were the kind of couple that everybody said would win the amazing race. Like, we were so good together, so adventurous. And yeah, one day he went on a hike and hit his head and died instantly. And I, in the beginning was it was in shock, and I didn't really feel much, but I noticed like all these people like coming to my side
Mhm.
and like, what do I do to help you? Like, what do you need? And I kind of, in that experience realized that a lot of the rituals and ceremonies and activities that we have after someone dies are really about giving folks an outlet for this really like anxious fight or flight energy
Mhm.
that's happening. And in seeing that, and in seeing like they had much more capacity and at that time to help me than I had to delegate or come up with like a list of things I needed or like how they could help. There needed to be like a resource for them to go to be like, what do I do when someone I love is in really deep acute grief,
Mhm.
and some sort of trauma response? And so, being the kind of person that I am, I was like already seeing the problem, like kind of the moment that Will died. And so I started like kind of collecting anecdotes in my mind, like lists of things that people could do. And kind of from that experience, I wrote a book about how to help someone you love cope with death, loss, and grief.
Mhm.
And I just thought it was going to be that. I just thought it was going to be a book. I had no intention of really pursuing like grief coaching, or being a grief therapist, someone who's like deeply embedded in this. But the more I shared myself with other people who were bereaved, it was really apparent to me that we don't do a good job of making people who are grieving feel loved,
Mm.
right? Like, the stories that I heard were, I feel abandoned and forgotten and left behind. And I was really having kind of an outlier experience, honestly. Like, the people around me have been so amazing. It'll be 6 years now in November since Will died. And I have the most wonderful people around me who continue to talk about him, to continue to remember, tough dates. They tell stories and they've been with me from the beginning. And it's that experience and this like really outlier experience that I had that really motivated me to do the work that I'm doing so that other people can have that too.
Nice, nice, very good. Now, the book. Let's
Yeah,
talk a little bit about your book
sure.
and the importance of it and why you think people dealing with the loss, still struggling to cope with grief, why your book could possibly help them.
Yeah. I think my book is really an intro to this is what real grief looks like.
Mhm.
And this is what grief looks like when it changes everything. Grief is everywhere every day, right? You like wake up and your day doesn't go the way you had planned it to. Like, there's some grief in there, right? There's like, we're attached to this idea, the idea doesn't happen for whatever reason, there's grief there. But grief in the context of someone dying in your life, that fundamentally changes how you go about your day to day, activities, like all your plans for the future, like that's really, really disorienting. It's
Mhm.
really shocking. And to have something that kind of grounds you to the present, tells you there's actually nothing wrong with you. It is just this hard. And here are the strategies that you can apply and share with the people that love you who want to help make this easier and more comfortable. That's what my book does.
Nice, nice, nice. Very good. And you said you kind of just wrote it and not necessarily thinking that things were going to take off the way it did. Talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Sure. I mean, in the first few years after Will died, I battled a lot of, I don't know what to call it, like maybe like guilt around building a business that required me to like speak so openly about my lived experience. And Will was not a social media guy. He was very much a behind the scenes kind of person. So to be like open and honest about what I live with, like kind of felt a little bit, I don't know, it didn't quite sit right with me in the beginning. But the more conversations I had and the more I really dove into this like book project, it became very clear to me that the world needs to be having these conversations, and I am well suited to have them. And I think that's that's what makes my future and my present livable, and Will would want that for me.
Yes, nice. And how do you think that dealing with this and this loss, how it has actually deepened and strengthened your coaching?
I could have never imagined the quality of a coach that I would become because of this, to be very honest.
Mhm.
I, when it first happened to me, like the first, I don't know, 2.5 years, I was terrified that my brain was never going to be what it was. And I think the sheer quantity of self compassion that I had to give myself and to lower my expectations, like day to day, in terms of what I could achieve, actually has set me up in terms of building systems where I take such good care of myself now that the way I show up for my clients is better than ever, to be
Mhm.
honest. I show up for myself better. I show up for my friends better. I show up for my clients in a way that is like so present and so attuned to what they are experiencing in that moment, that I feel really, really proud of the work I do now.
Nice. Very good. Very good. So you just talked about the self-compassion necessary, like in the lowering of expectations that we have to do sometimes. Could you talk to the people who are struggling with giving themselves some self-compassion and may have expectations a little too high, but probably don't even notice?
Yeah, yeah. I think we live in a world that is driven by productivity.
Mhm.
And if you are not doing or producing, then there's this narrative that you're less than, right? You're not worthy. And I think what going through traumatic experiences will teach folks is that actually like your worthiness has nothing to do with what you can produce. And if you are willing to allow your body to do what it wants to do, what it needs to do to be able to recover from the traumatic experience, you will come back stronger. And
Mhm.
I always use the analogy. Will was a big gym guy, big gym bro, always at the gym. And he would often say, he's like, our muscles are not built in the gym. In the gym is where we break them down, but it's actually proper rest and recovery that strengthens our muscles. So I see it as the traumatic experience is like you are out in the arena of life, right? These things happen to us and we have very little control over them happening to us, but we do have control about how we recuperate from them. And that looks like a lot of rest, really healthy self-care practices, and like heaps of self-compassion that say like I love myself enough to let myself recover in a meaningful way, that so I can still have a meaningful future, not, bullying myself into submission or something to like get where it is I'm going. And yeah, it takes some time and some convincing sometimes, but I think a lot of people struggle with that worthiness piece of like, if I'm not doing something for the sake of productivity, what value do I have? And a lot of my work is like helping people establish that you are valuable just as a human as you are,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't matter what it is you are doing or what other people think of you. It's that, you are a good, kind hearted person who's been through something really terrible. And it's going to take a little bit of time to get back to the place where you were, but
Mhm.
you're actually going to be able to go even further if you're willing to give yourself what you need right now.
And what do you think are some of those things people need right now if they're dealing with a loss or some sort of grief of a situation?
Yeah. I think they first need a really, really supportive network around them, people who are going to say like, I love you no matter what, and who are willing to kind of pick up the slack a little bit if necessary. The hey, I can take your kids for the afternoon, or I can drop off groceries. And then beyond that, like my kind of advice to folks is thinking about like, where can you make your life easier and more comfortable? And if that means like you are Uber eating your groceries and your meals, like that's okay if it's what helps you create space to like slow down a little bit instead of doing it all on your own.
Mhm.
Um, More comfortable can look like, trading your tight jeans for more comfortably fitting clothing, right? Just from like a nervous system level, like that makes it easier to get through a day, or clothing thing, or softer sheets, a little more sleep. Just thinking about like where I think we can get so caught up in the things that we can't fix about grief, particularly, if you've lost an ability to do something or you've lost a person. Obviously, like you can't fix those things, but where you do have a lot of agency is where you can make your life easier and more comfortable.
Nice, nice, nice. And so what do you say to someone who feels like their pain is too big or like too raw to work through? What type of advice do you give them?
I would encourage them to find someone in the world who isn't scared of their pain.
Mhm.
I feel like that's a big honor and a privilege that, people tell me like, "Oh, I don't know how you do the work that you do." Sitting with people like in these really hard situations. And I'm like, it is an honor and a privilege to sit with someone who believes that they are too much, that they are experiencing too much and they are broken or, completely screwed up. And to say, like, your pain doesn't scare me or your grief doesn't scare me. And I think that that helps with them to accept their own pain as well, which can then also make it easier to live with.
Nice, nice, nice. And so let's say I'm coming into your office for coaching and I'm just super flustered and have a lot of anxiety, and the pressure is on just from reminiscing that day and seeing some old photos, and I just feel like crap. How would you help get me back centered?
Yeah.
What's your go-to technique?
I am a huge fan of breathing, which I recognize, is not the activity that a lot of people love. If you're a super driven, ambitious person, you like come in to work with me and you're like, what? We're just going to breathe. But I do think there is, and I know there is a lot of value in making your exhales longer than your inhales that kind of soothes a really anxious nervous system in the moment. So, big fan of doing that. And then just brainstorming with the person. It's like, where are the places or times in your life right now where you can feel your calmest, right? It might not feel like what calm felt like before this really terrible thing happened to you, but maybe like driving because you're focusing on the road feels really good. Or maybe it's singing along to your favorite song, or maybe it's going for a walk or going to the gym, and really creating kind of this menu of things so that the next time you are wildly dysregulated, feeling completely overwhelmed, you can open the note app on your phone and be like, okay, what can I do like right now? And that's why I often go to breathing because it's something we all have access to. Um, and just taking like a few like slow, deep breaths can mean a lot.
Yes, 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 yes. That's really good. And I often take to some meditation and some grounding techniques, and that can always like just kind of recenter me and get me back into the present moment. Because I find I'm usually in the past, and I got to get out of the past. The past
Yeah.
is no good for me, or I'm too far in the future projecting. Like I got a genie ball and I know what might happen. And both of those things gets my nervous system all riled up. And I'm like, hey, let me get back into the present moment. Let me focus back on the here and now. And what can I do right here, right now, and not worried about the past or the future because I can't change either of those things, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So, with everything you've built, what helps you feel supported and seen right now?
It's a great question. I really appreciate when people name the reason why I do this work. Honestly, like I've been calling it like later grief, which isn't a real term, but I'm nearly 6 months into this grief journey now. And I've got it pretty like dialed in, right? Like I'm quite confident in terms of how I can regulate my nervous system. I have a life that I really enjoy. And I'm excited about the future, which is something that I never thought that I would experience. But there's still moments where I'm like, this isn't the life that I had planned for myself. Like I was supposed to be with this person who's not here anymore. And when people still name that, that's huge to me. And
Mhm,
it doesn't have to be like, anything big and grand. It can just be like, thank you for the work you're doing. Like I know you didn't choose this path. And that to me is just the biggest gift
mhm,
um right now in terms of support. And then as well as like just networking with folks who do similar stuff from a very heart-centered place, like that feels really really aligned with the kind of person I am and the kind of people that I want to surround myself with.
Nice. Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel the same and ditto that. I have another great question that I think you're going to love, and I'm
Okay.
going to enjoy hearing your answer. Okay, if you could go back and design a better support system around your husband, what would it have looked like?
Like when he was alive
Yeah,
or right after he died?
yeah, right after he died, around, oh, pardon, I typo,
Oh,
around
that's
you after your partner died, what would that support system would have looked like?
Yeah, great question. I will give all the props to the people who are around me. They did the absolute best that they could with the resources that they had at the time. What I would have loved is if they had sought out the answers to how to help me without me having to be the leader. And that's honestly that's a big reason why I wrote the book is that it can be the go-to resource when people are asking, what do I do? How do I help in a crisis? It's for the support people to go and it's very short. It's only like just over 100 pages. Font's really big. It's in an audiobook and an ebook and a paperback. Like it is easy to like use the guiding principles to support the person that you love. And I think I just kind of wish that resource existed for my people. So there was less of a learning curve
Mhm.
when it happened to me.
Okay, okay, okay. Now, and what's one shift you love to see in the world around mental health and emotional safety when people are dealing with grief and loss?
Yeah. I would love to see more folks have the courage to sit with the person that they love and just listen to what they're experiencing. I think we live in a world we talk about toxic positivity and all this stuff. And like grief just wants to be seen and witnessed and acknowledged. And I think a lot of people come in, wanting to fix things and wanting to help. And the biggest thing that you can do to help is just say, like, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. and I'm going to love you through this in every version. And, yeah, picture it takes. And however you come out of this, like, I'm going to love you in that form too. That's really important to me.
And I like to, lastly, I'd like you to tell us again about your book, the name and title of your book, and one thing on why you think it's important for people who maybe have dealt with grief, or maybe they might just want to get it for a friend when that situation comes up and arises, and why it could be helpful to someone thrust into a grieving situation.
Yeah. So my book is called Grief Ally, Helping People You Love Cope with Death, Loss, and Grief. And it is really written for the support people who are asking, what do I do? How do I help when a life changing loss happens in their community? And it offers some guiding lessons and principles that you can apply in the immediate aftermath of a tragedy, but then also like through the long haul of grief as well. It won't let you down. And it's a great resource for people who are at the epicenter of a tragedy to be like, okay, these are the guiding principles. This is the advice I can give to the people who are showing up for me. But then also, if you don't want to have to teach people, you can just send them the book and then everybody can be speaking the same language.
Yes, speaking the same language, being on one accord, that's really important nowadays, really is, and so underrated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ali, thank you so much. Thank you for being so open and honest and generous with us here. And you've shown, I believe, you've shown us how you've turned your pain into purpose. And you've also just giving the world something powerful to think on and grow from and learn from when dealing with grief, or if someone they know may comes upon some kind of situation, then they can get them your book.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kelly. I really appreciated this conversation.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I'd like to continue this conversation, whether it's later after this, or being a support to you, or collaborating with you on something. That would be amazing, because I too, I was thinking when you shared, I feel the same way about being connected with other people in this space. I really have a passion for it. And so I like to be around other creatives doing what I'm doing and trying to make the impact on the world that you're making. And it's just wonderful. So thank you again.
Thank you so, so much.